So support quiz 3, the first problem says, for the following study, identify the population, the sample population, the perimeter, and the sample statistics. And it says, astronauts typically determine the distance to a galaxy, a huge collection of billions of stars, by measuring the distances to just a few stars within it, taking the mean, which is just the average. Mean is just a fancy way for saying average of these distance measurements. Okay, so it's asking us for, the first question says, well, what is the population? Well, the population is going to be all stars in the galaxy. Remember that your population is bigger than your sample. So all the stars in the galaxy would be the answer for that one. Then it says identify the sample. So we're gonna kind of I guess rein it in. The sample should be smaller, and the sample is the stars that were selected for measurement. Okay, and when we talked in the class about this, we kind of talked about different cornfields, and we said, well, if we wanted to survey all the corn in these counties, right, we wouldn't be able to. That's impossible because all the corn would be population, but we would maybe pick 10 out of each farm to sample, and that would be our sample. So they can't possibly study all the stars in the galaxy. That's their population. They had to bring it down to a size that's a sample, which is going to be the stars that were selected for measurement. Okay, and then it says, what is the population parameter? The population parameter is going to be the mean distance between all stars in the galaxy and Earth. So what are we looking for? We're trying to find the mean distance between all stars in the galaxy and Earth. And you notice that it's going back to the population, which is the bigger thing. So we're not looking at the sample anymore. We're trying to find the mean distance between all the stars, not just the ones we measured. Okay, and then it says identify the sample statistics. So now we're breaking it down to what we actually did because we couldn't possibly do all the stars. So it's going to be the mean distance between all stars that were selected for the measurement. Okay, population is the bigger group. Okay, and then the sample is always going to break it down to what you actually did. A sample statistics and margin of error are given. Find the confidence interval likely to contain the population parameter of interest and answer the question. 10 years ago, according to government records, 17% of the population of Elmwood had no health insurance. But this year, a poll revealed that 20.4% were without insurance. The margin of error was 2.6% or percentage points. Find a confidence interval for the true percentage without insurance this year. Can we conclude that this percentage without insurance has increased from 10 years ago? Well, so here's what we know. We know that 17% have no insurance, according to this study. It has a margin of error of 2.6. So here's what you do with that, right? The first time, if we want to find the range, the first time we add 2.6. The second time we subtract 2.6 to figure out what that is going to be. Okay. So what, 19.6 on the first one? And 14.4. Okay, so that actually means that really the range is not, that it's really between 14.4% and 19.6% that don't have insurance, okay? 17 was an estimate, but they're saying this margin of error, you add the margin of error and you take it away, and then you see what the real range that is possible is. Okay, so we got 14.4% to 19.6, except for I forgot to do something. This was 10 years ago. I'm sorry. So we need to look at the one that is this year. So 20.4%, this is talking about this year. We need to add 2.6 to this. 20.4, this was 10 years ago. Okay, and then we need to subtract 2.6. This is going to give us 23. And then 17.8. So this year, our range is 17.8% to 23%, which is B. Okay. And then the last question says, can we conclude that the percentage without insurance has increased from 10 years ago? Well, I mean, compare them. I mean, this was 10 years ago, 14.4 to 19.6, and now it's 17.8 to 23. Yeah, it's increased. Those numbers are bigger. So yes. Okay. Questions? Okay, to find the mean, what do we do? Sometimes it's really worth going to your calculator to do the stuff. Other times it's just like more complicated. If all I have to do is find the mean, I just want to work this problem. I don't want to have to type it all in my calculator. That would be silly. If I'm having to find standard deviation, I want to type it in the calculator because it's so much easier. Or if I'm looking for that 5-number summary, which we're going to do in a minute, you want to type that in the calculator. But if I'm just looking for the mean, I don't want to take time to do that. So just to find the mean, remember, another way to write mean is X bar. So you take all the numbers, and mean just really means the same thing as average. So you take all your numbers, you add them up, and then you divide by how many things there are. And on this one, there's 5. Okay. I always just find the answer to the top. I don't try to type this all in my calculator at once because it makes me make mistakes. So I find the answer to the top. And then I do, okay, then I divide them. And X bar just is another way to write mean. In the calculator, it's going to say X bar when it's talking about mean. If I add them all up and I divide by how many there are, we've got 13.8. Questions about that? Okay, so on this one, trying to find the mean. So we're going to add them up. Now the calculator, if we type them in the list, and we're going to practice this in just a minute, typing this stuff in the list. I just don't want to do every single one of them like that because it's a waste of time. But we're going to add all these up. Okay, and then we're going to divide by the number that there are, and it looks like there's 10. This is the mean, so it's X bar. It's nice when these are multiple choice because if you happen to be off a little bit, sometimes that'll help you catch your mistake if you don't see one of your answers there. Because sometimes when you're typing all this stuff in, it's easy to type the wrong thing, or it is for me anyway. Okay, on the top, if I add all those up, I'm getting 4,465 divided by 10, which is going to be 446.5. So A would be my mean score, my average. Okay. Questions about that? That's pretty easy. We want to find the range. The range is just the biggest number minus the smallest number. So the manager of an electrical supply store measured the diameters of the rolls of wire in the inventory. The diameters of the rows are listed below. So we want to find the biggest number. It looks to me like 0.599 would be our biggest. Our smallest number would be the 0.11. So we need to do 0.599 minus 0.11. So big minus small, that's how you find range. And it is 0.489, which is A. Questions about that? Pretty easy. Okay, number 6. The numbers listed below represent the amount of precipitation last year in 6 different U.S. cities. Compute the standard deviation, round to 1 more decimal place than the original data. So all the original data only have 1 decimal place, so they must be wanting us to round to 2 decimal places, right? So I'm going to go to the graphing calculator to do this problem, okay? Because standard deviation would take us a lot of time. If you want to go, there's a video over it if you want to know how to do it, that we did in class, I think last week. But here's how you do it on the calculator. So let me go to my calculator on here. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this. I can quit. I just got a clear screen. So to find standard deviation, you got to type in that list in your calculator. So I'm going to hit the stat button, which is right beside the gray arrows. I'm going to hit stat. Then it's going to pull up this nice edit calc test thing on your screen. Okay, Maria, are you there? Okay, awesome. Then you're going to hit enter because you do want to edit that. Mine already has a list. It should have L1, L2 at the top. Mine already has something in it. I need that to be gone. So I'm going to arrow with my arrow. I'm going to arrow up and I'm going to hit clear, which is right below the arrows. And then I'm going to arrow down and it'll clear out that list for me because I don't want anything there because I want to type these numbers that they gave me. So 18.5, 10.5. 44.3, I like to go back and eyeball them because I am notorious about typing something in wrong. There are 6 numbers. I typed all 6 in, so I think we're good. Questions about what we've done so far? Okay. So then you're going to go after you type them in. Maria, do you have them typed in? I'm not picking on you. I just don't want to leave you behind. I'll wait for just a minute because this is important that you know how to do this. Okay, you good? Super fabulous. Now we're going to go back to that stat button again. That's right by those arrows. We're going to hit stat again. This time we want to go over to calculate. So we're going to hit CALC. And we do want that one vars. That's what we want. So we're going to hit enter. Now you want to make sure this says list one. If it doesn't say list one, you can hit second one because L1 at the bottom is right above the number one. So if you hit second L1, it'll turn to list one. But other than that, if it says L1, you're going to enter through it. Okay, so it's not asking for this, but here's the mean, right? 23 point, if we were trying to find the mean, there's the mean. In our problem, this little SX right here is what we're looking for when we're doing standard deviation. So 16.198 is the number that they're asking for. And it says that they want us to round this to 2 decimal places. So we would, that 8 would make the 9 round up, right? So the answer would be 16.20. In a minute, so you're looking for SX. That's your standard deviation on these, on the calculator. 16.20. And if you arrow on down, which is what we're going to do in the minute with some other problems, they've got the minimum number, your quartile 1, your median, your quartile 3, and your maximum. That's going to be your 5-number summary that we're going to use to make the box and whisker plot in a minute, okay? But we don't need that. So SX was our answer, 16 point, that's our standard deviation. So let me get out of here.
Says that 5-number deviation starts with SX, right?
A 5-number summary starts with the minimum, min X. So this is C, our standard deviation. It was 16.198, which would round to 16.20. Okay, so there's our standard deviation. Now, here we go with this 5-number summary thing. So it says an auto transmission manufacturer receives ball bearings from 2 different suppliers. The ball bearings must have a specified diameter of 16.3 millimeters with a tolerance of plus or minus 0.1 millimeter. Recent shipments from the 2 suppliers had ball bearings with the following diameters, complete parts A through C. Okay, so here's the deal. I know that they're asking for some things that table will compute for me. So it would be convenient to use that table to get this information. So let's do that real quick. I don't know why I'm picking up my calculator because mine's on my screen. So I'm going to type, let's let supplier A be in list 1, supplier B be in list 2. So I'm going to go here, which this takes a little bit of time, but this is one of the problems where you want it to, I'm going to hit second mode to get out of that screen, clear it out. Second mode is right beside second. This is one of those problems where you actually do want to take a minute and type these in because there's a lot of information that we need from these 2 lists that we can get from this table. If I was just going to have to calculate the mean, I wouldn't take time to do this, but I'm going to stat. I do want to edit that. So stat right beside the arrows. I do want to edit that. So I'm going to enter. I've got stuff in my list 1. I don't want it to be there. So I'm going to arrow up. I'm going to hit clear, which is right below the arrows, and then hit down. So it'll clear out that list 1 for me. So I highlighted list 1, I hit clear, arrow down, it'll clear out that list for me. I'm going to type in supplier A. I'm going to let that be list 1. Supplier B, I'm going to let that be list 2. Another thing that I really like about the list and doing it this way is that to find your median, you have to put the numbers in order. And so when the calculator does it for you, it puts the numbers in order and you don't have to worry about that. It kind of makes your life a little bit easier. I do like to take that extra time and just go back and eyeball that I typed something in, or made sure I type them in correctly, especially if I'm taking a test.
And then how do I get the list? Oh, okay, scroll.
Yeah, to get, that's a good question, but to get the list two, you just arrow over and it should go there. Okay, mine look good. Okay, we're gonna answer, we'll answer all the questions about supplier A, and then we'll come back and answer the questions about supplier B, because there'll be two separate lists. So let's do that.
Okay, so I should get over and see.
Or have you typed list one and list two in? Okay, awesome. So Maria, you're good with us too? Now I'm going to stat, which is that same button we've been using, stat, and you want to go over to calc. So I just use my arrow and highlight calc. Gonna hit enter. It should already say list one, and that's gonna be our supplier A. So we're gonna just deal with list one first. Okay, so when I hit enter all the way through that list, it gives me some information. And the very first question on this paper is, what is the mean? And the mean is 16.34. The next question says, what is the standard deviation? Well, that's that SX, right? And this is 0.077. Probably, it says round to the hundredths place, so that's really going to be 0.08, right? Because that 7 is going to make you round up. Then I'm going to skip down to part B just while we're here. So look at the screen real quick. To get that 5-number summary, we need to hit the arrows and go down and write down these. You need to write down the minimum, which is 16.23. Quartile 1 is 16.28. And I'll go back and write these down, but I just want to make sure you know where I'm getting them. The median is 16.33. The quartile 3 is 16.42. And the maximum X is 16.45. So that's our 5-number summary, okay? I'm going to get out of this and just go back to our paper real quick. Okay, so we dealt with this stuff. We found out that our mean on supplier A was 16.34. We said the standard deviation was 0.08 when we rounded it. Then I'm going to skip down to this part, which I jotted down that we had our 5-number summary was the minimum X was 16.23, quartile 1, 16.28, the median 16.33, quartile 3 is 16.42, and the maximum X was 16.45. Okay, so we need the one that matches this. So the ends, the little whisker parts, it's kind of easiest to see it on this, I guess this one over here maybe, but the whisker parts are your minimum and your maximum, the parts that stick out. So this needs to be 16.23 and this needs to be 16.45. And I'm looking at this and it looks like it's smaller than 16.2, right? So it's not 16.23 on A. That can't be it, okay? So if we move over 16.23, this one could possibly be it. If you'll notice that these don't have any boxes or whisker, this one doesn't have a box in the middle and this one doesn't have any whiskers, which means that the numbers would be exactly the same. So I'm thinking it's D. And what this would mean on this problem, let me see if I can turn this a little bit. Where are you at? So this would be our 16.23. The next number would be a part of our box, which would be 16.28. Then the next part of our box would be our median, 16.33. 16.42. I'm just getting these numbers from right here. And then this would be 16.45. So these are your endpoints. And then this part right here, then these right here make your box. Sorry, that looks crooked, but there's your box and whiskers. That's what it's supposed to look like. And you just turn it over and get these points. So it has to be D. The other ones don't make sense. Okay. Questions about that? Let's go back and get our list 2. So this could be a little bit confusing. We need to go back to our calculator. Now we've already typed list 2 in. I'm going to hit second mode to get out of that screen, and I'm going to go back to stat. I've already typed the list in. It's in list 2. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to calc. I'm going to hit enter, but I don't want it to say L1. I need it to say L2. And L2 is right above the number 2 at the bottom. So if you hit second 2, it'll change to L2. I hit second and then the number 2 and it changed to L2. Now I'm good. I can just enter all the way through that and I can get what I need to answer my questions. Okay, so you went to stat and then calc, and then you need to change it to L2. So you hit second number 2, and it'll change it to L2. Yeah, because it has like that L2 right above the number 2 at the bottom. And then you enter all the way through it. So it looks to me like we have a mean of X bar is your mean, so 16.3. 16.32 is what they've got. They rounded it. The standard deviation is SX right here. So it's 0.10. And then we've got to match the graph. So to match the graph, we're going to need this 5-number summary right here. These 16.19, 16.22, all that good stuff. Let me jot it down so that I can write it for you. We get over there. Okay. So we got our mean. Calculator told us it was 16.32. That was our X bar. Our standard deviation was 0.10. And we need to draw a box and whisker plot. So the numbers that we our minimum is 16.19. Well, if I just go through this, well, so our numbers were 16.19, 16.22, 16.32, 16.42. In order for the answer to be A, where there's no box in here, a lot of my numbers would have to be the same. Does that make sense? Because we'd have multiple, that's why I eliminated the box, or just whiskers. Okay, so I know it's not that one. And the same thing here, because all of my numbers are different. So it's not D either. Because I actually have, these would be this is my whisker, and this is a whisker. And then the middle numbers make up the box. So I'm looking for, on B, it's possible that this line right here could be 16.19. Because that dotted line is 16.2, so that makes sense. This could be 16.22, 16.32, 16.42, and then the last number 16.46, and I've got an extra 1 there. This one, C doesn't make sense because the first number is 16.19 and it's bigger than 16.2. So that's not going to work, right? So the right answer is B. Okay. And part C says, find the percentage of ball bearings from supplier A that meets specifications. Okay, so we got to go back up and look. This one's a complicated one. I'm glad we're doing this together so y'all can make 100 on your sport quiz. Any questions about what we did so far? So we got to find this percentage that meet the specification. So up here it tells us what the specifications are. It says the ball bearings must have a specified diameter of 16.3 millimeters with a tolerance of plus or minus 0.1 millimeters. So basically, we're saying that in order for them to meet the specifications, they have to be 16.3 plus 0.1 to 16.3 minus 0.1. That's what that plus or minus. So it's, if you add 16.3 plus 0.1, you would get 16.4. If you subtract it, you're going to get 16.2. So it actually has to be in between those. It tells us that it's got to be plus or minus 0.1 millimeter. So it needs to be in between. Is everybody okay about that? It needs to be between 16.2 and 16.4. This one's good. That one's in between that. This is good. This is good. This is good. This is good. This is not. 16.42 is over 16.4, so it doesn't make it, and this one doesn't make it. 16.45 would not be in between 16.2 and 16.4. So that means that we have 7 of these. So 5 out of 7 were good. Okay, I'm just going to jot that down and then we'll go to the bottom in just a minute and finish this. On the supplier B, it's got to still think we have to be between 16.2 and 16.4. This is under 16.2. That's not good. This one's okay. This one's okay. This one's okay. This one's okay. This is not good. This is not good, right? They're over. So on supplier B, we've got 4 out of 7. Supplier A, we have 5 out of 7 that were good, and supplier B, we have 4 out of 7. Okay. Questions about that? When we come down here to the bottom, we need to compute these. So 5 out of 7 and 4 out of 7. We're going to have to change them to percent. So that means you're dividing. And multiplying by 100 after you do that. So 5 divided by 7. It's 0.714 ... When we multiply that by 100, it says round to the nearest integer. So they're wanting us to just have, they're not wanting us to have a decimal answer. Since the next numbers are 4, we would just get 71%. Okay, 4 divided by 7 is 0.571 ... Okay, so the 1 would not force us to round up, so it would just be 57%. So 71% and 57%. Okay, questions? It's a lot. I'm going to post this video as soon as this class is over with if you need to go back and look at it. So last question, number 8, says the normal monthly precipitation for August is listed for 20 different U.S. cities. Construct a box plot for the data set. I don't want to put those in order by myself if the calculator will do it for me, right? So this is one that would be worth typing those in the calculator, because that way I know that I'm going to get the right answer and come up with that 5-number summary. So I'm going to go to my calculator and I'm going to type these numbers in. So you're going to go to stat. To clear the list out, and I know we've got stuff you might want to go ahead and clear both lists out. So stat, enter, and then I'm gonna go ahead and clear out list 2, but you just highlight it, hit clear, and then down button. I'll go over, up. You hit the clear button and then the down button, and it'll clear out the list. So you highlight L1, hit clear, down, it'll clear it out. And I'm just gonna, it doesn't really matter where you type them. And you don't have to type point, if it's 0.0, you don't have to type that in, that's not necessary. See if you got the right thing. I'm gonna wait just a minute on you guys to make sure you're there. Gonna go to stat. I do want to calculate this, so go over to calc. I'm gonna hit enter. Mine says list 2, but it's not in list 2, so I need to change that to list 1. So I'm gonna hit second 1, hit enter, enter, enter all the way through it. There's my mean if I needed it. I don't on this problem. My standard deviation would be SX, which would be 1.3. They usually have you round to 2 decimals, so probably 1.31. So we're doing box and whisker plot. So we really need this 5-number summary that starts with the minimum X is 1, quartile 1 is 2.3, the median is 3.55, quartile 3 is 3.95, the maximum is 7. Anybody lost? I might have typed something in wrong, but if y'all agree with me. So I'm gonna go to my, hopefully I can find the answer here. And so I can already reason out A, because A says that my minimum number is 0.4. So it's not. My minimum, these are the numbers that I'm looking for. We started with 1, and then our next number is 2.3, 3.55, 3.95, 7. So this should be my whiskers on the end, and these 3 should be the box. Right, so I'm looking for, so it's not 0.4, that's not it, that's not it, so it could be, and this is not it. So it has to be C, but let's just make sure. So they've got 1, 2.3, 3.55, 3.957. All right, so this is it. Okay, definitely use the calculator for that one. So those are pretty much the concepts that we talked about in chapter 6 on that support quiz. So next time we will go into chapter 7. Project 2 is due November the 9th, which, that's why I wanted to give, it's not super difficult, but there is a video posted. There's some other things like your rubric is posted in Blackboard under course content. The main thing that you need, a lot of the stuff you can do a couple of days ahead and turn it in. I don't want to encourage that, but the main thing that you need to do is you need to make sure you're able to survey 25 people, and the answer to the question needs to be a number. So that's the process. You need to decide, what question am I going to ask people, and the answer needs to be a number so that you can get the data that you need to finish the project, because that's sometimes the hardest part, is getting those numbers. Questions about that?
Was the one that I put, is that gonna work?
Yeah, should work. Should be good.